You mentioned that Ohio State game. Let's look at the schedule. I know that it's April, and so it's a 30,000 foot view, but is it, I know Texas got a lot of flack for the strength of schedule last year, and, welcome to the SEC, look what Oklahoma got and look what Texas got. But if we're being honest, obviously the week one matchup against Ohio State, obviously, all of college football probably salivating at that one as Texas gave OSU the best game in the playoff that anybody did. But then the rest of the out of conference, obviously, you would have to have a huge letdown to lose anything else. And then the SEC, pretty manageable. We talked about the UF game. Oklahoma, after a couple of portal pickups, certainly looking a little bit more challenging. Hopefully that's more of a fun game this year. But the rest of the way, I mean, you're talking about, it would take a monumental meltdown, it feels like, against Kentucky, Mississippi State, Vandy, even Arkansas, A&M at home. Obviously got to go on the road at Athens. But it feels really manageable. It truly feels like a worst case 9-3 type of schedule. That's a pretty good floor to be at. Obviously, Texas fans would be incredibly disappointed with 9-3, and you can't blame them with the expectations. But man, if you go 1-2 in your toughest three games, you're back in the playoff without a doubt. But they've got a real chance to be back in Atlanta and competing for the SEC.
Yeah, look, I think the schedule's definitely more difficult than last season because of road games at Florida and at Georgia. And of course, people say that's easy to say about Florida now. Well, yeah, we didn't know what they were going to look like last year. We didn't know if they were going to have a coaching change last year. Yeah. So now it seems like they're turning the corner with DJ Lagwin or Billy Napier, but we'll see what happens. But it's definitely a tougher schedule. When your road games in SEC are at Florida and at Georgia, it's going to be a tougher schedule. And Oklahoma will be an improved team. How much we'll see. Year two under Mike Elko, did they get better? A&M comes to Austin, but still, that's year two. Coaches normally, they get more of the guys they want in there. Now, A&M lost some heavy losses on the D-line, but Mike Elko's getting more of his guys in there. So normally, you're a little bit better in year two. But that Ohio State game, look, I start every season with a really talented team like Texas has. I kind of start at 10-2. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I say, if Texas goes and wins at Ohio State, then we'll revisit this whole thing. But one thing I'll say for Ohio State game is Sark, with a few months to prepare, has had great success. If you look at even the game they lost at Alabama, if Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt, what happens in that game? I don't know. They lost 2019, right? Or I think it was 2019 that year in 2022. They came back the next year and won at Bama. Everybody knows about that win. Then, yes, Michigan had heavy losses. Is that going to resemble Ohio State? Not the same offensively, but Michigan had heavy losses. Texas goes in and thumps Michigan. Sark, with a few months to prepare, is a really dangerous guy offensively. And you look at that Ohio State game, TJ, I mean, look, if you said who lost more off their teams, there's no question 139 college coaches are going to say Ohio State lost more than Texas off that team. Now, you still recruit top 5 classes, but Texas goes into Ohio State. You want to play Ohio State early. It's kind of like playing Michigan last year and playing Alabama that year. You want to play them early because not only did they lose a lot of players, they lost both their coordinators. And that's a lot of change in a one-off season for a program. And yes, they won a national championship, and hat tip to Ryan Day because he was close to being ran out of town, and then he wins a national championship. But they lost a lot of impact players on both sides of the ball. They're going to have a first-year starting quarterback unless they go to the portal against Texas, first-time starter against Texas. And there won't be many games where Arch Manning's the most experienced quarterback on the field, but it will be in Columbus.
Yeah, I think getting them early, and with the way the SEC does their schedule most of the time, I mean, you're not playing a lot of out of conference unless it's a rivalry like, Florida and Florida State do, Georgia Tech. So I think getting them early is so huge. Game one with a new quarterback and new coordinators. I mean, you don't want to count on this kind of thing to win a game, but championship hangover, is a very real thing too. And so I think that's very beneficial. On Oklahoma, it's hard to project, but I think Mateer is probably the best portal QB pickup that anybody got. And then they add Jaden Ott just a day ago as well. That team was very good defensively.
Yes.
And could, and I know they lost guys. Like they're not, maybe not at the same level, but they're still going to be really good on that side of the ball under Venables. And if they figure out the offense, we went from the Red River just being an absolute laugher last year. It wasn't even fun to tune into. Most national fans and Oklahoma fans for sure too turned it off at halftime because it's just better football to watch. Like it wasn't fun to watch.
Right.
I'd expect we get a different game this year. Not saying Oklahoma wins, but it feels like that would be one that's very, very different.
Oh, it will. I expect it to be different because it's also coming off getting your butt kicked if you're in Norman, and those never. Then the next year, there's always a real battle. Now, Oklahoma lost some great line. I mean, Danny Sensman's a tremendous player. They also have two guys coming back that are NFL backers. They lost a little bit, Billy Bowman. They lost some key guys, but they're always going to be good defensively under Brent Venables. He recruits, he evaluates well. They develop those guys. They're going to have good players on defense. John Mateer's going to have a lot of pressure on him, too, by the way. I mean, he's kind of carrying the future Brent Venables on his shoulders. And obviously it helps that his offensive coordinator is the reason he's there. So there's familiarity. I think with Oklahoma, Jaden Ott's a good pickup for them. I know he was injured some last year, but he was a 1,000-yard rusher the year before. They lacked the real downhill back. They have a young back, so now they have two of those guys they can bring at you. So they're going to be better at running back, especially between the tackles, creating tough yards, rushing the football, which is going to help Mateer. Mateer's a really good playmaker, good runner, good playmaker. The wide receivers are going to have to come through for him, and the offensive line is going to have to come through. But anytime you lose a rivalry game bad, the next year is going to be a real battle, a real war. And Oklahoma is going to give Texas their absolute best shot after last year. So much of the time, those games come down to, who's healthy. That's an early season who's healthy game because health is impacted in that game. You look at the Texas-Oklahoma game 2 years ago, not last year, 2 years ago. Center Jake Majors went down on the second offensive possession. Tight end JT Sanders, who was limping around out there, was not near the weapon he was when he was healthy. And Quinn Ewers had 3 interceptions early. One of those was kind of not his fault. But those injuries are impactful in that game too. We always talk about injuries late in the year, but who's healthy going into that game is big too because that's not a game you want to have to be bringing in inexperienced players. Experience matters in that game.
Yeah. And then lastly, you talk about, getting up for a game. I know the rivalry is probably at the top and then the defending national champions is at the top, but is there any game that Texas is salivating over more than going to Athens and trying to get that monkey off the back?
No.
I don't mean to minimize those other two, but sheesh, that one feels like everything that they'll have. And they'll have a bye week right before it. Obviously, Mississippi State and Vandy before that. So it's not even incredibly tough before then. But that feels like one that Texas will push every chip to the middle of the table for.
Absolutely. There's a lot of pain after last year. I mean, Georgia physically whipped Texas and Austin, bottom line. And then Texas feels like they gave one away in the SEC championship, whether it was a missed field goal, whether it was bad luck injuring the quarterback and Gunnar Stockton. It takes him a drive to adjust to his legs and what he could do on the field. Texas, that game there's going to be a lot there for Texas and a lot for Steve Sarkisian personally, I think, because that game in Austin was ugly. For how talented Texas was, they got beat up physically in that game. And they showed some fight in the second half, as they should. But Texas feels like they gave that one away in the SEC championship. They really do. And look, I think that game is going to be high octane, high level of physicality. And I'll say this. I think Georgia lost as many impact players on defense as any team in the country.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're going to look like early in the season as opposed to some past Georgia teams in their Kirby. But I know when Texas rolls into town, Georgia's going to play their best game.
Yeah, they always seem to get up for those games. And sometimes you can catch them on the road. Ole Miss has done it. Bama's done it. But they're a different animal there in Athens. So, hey, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work? And then talk specifically, I'll tell you, I know we're a long way away from it, but once you told me about them, I tuned into some of your live watches. Even if I couldn't catch them live, I'd go back and watch them later. Forgive me, I did watch the Ohio State one, but I mean, I watched the Clemson one. I watched the SEC championship one. I watched the A&M one once I kind of learned about them. I know you do a lot of great work at On Texas Football. Those are some of the most fun things I've seen out of the live watch-alongs, because you guys are into it. You guys feel the pain of, I hate to even bring this back up, but you feel the pain of what happened at the end of the Ohio State game and stuff. So it was fun to watch. I've seen some of those where the people I don't know, I'm not saying you're not professional, but where they're just too buttoned up, and you guys really get into those games and enjoy them. And that's what fans want. And that's why they're so successful. So talk a little bit about On Texas Football and where people can follow you and all that other stuff.
Yeah, on Texas football YouTube channel, I will close in on 79,000 subscribers. Hopefully, we get that 100,000 goal this year. And then on TexasFootball.com, message boards as well. A lot of things we don't, that aren't timely breaking that we can't put on the YouTube channel. We have great community building it on TexasFootball.com. Come make fun of me, CJ, Bobby Burton, all of us. I love it when you make fun of me. Look, yeah, those watch alongs are so much fun. I'm so glad we started to do that. And here's the thing with me. I mean, look, I'm a part of that. I'm going to wear it on my sleeve. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be genuine. I'm not going to BS. It is what it is. I look, if I didn't like toss sweep on second goal from the one in the national semifinal game. You're gonna see my reaction to that. It's not going to be well. It's just a bad thing happened there. No, I'm going to be real. I'm going to be real.
Yeah.
That's the way to be. That's the way you engage with your fans and you have great conversations. We have great members, a great community there. So our coffee and football shows in the morning. We have a lot of fun with those guys, and we're really thankful to all the Texas fans, obviously the Oklahoma fans that come in and talk some smack, Georgia fans, Ohio State fans will be in there in droves come late August. I know we have a lot of A&M fans. We have a lot of fun with it, man. So look, and if you're a fan of another team, I don't care where a kid goes to college. I've been doing this a long time. If I think somebody's good, I'm going to tell you they're really good. I go see a lot of these kids in person. I used to do this nationally from a recruiting standpoint. It doesn't matter the hat I'm wearing. If you want to ask an opinion of a kid, and I've seen him, I'll tell you a real opinion. If he goes to A&M, Oklahoma, doesn't matter. Great players go to all these schools. I love covering them.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you for your time. We appreciate you hanging out. Yeah. And man, yeah, go check out On Texas Football. We, again, those watch alongs. I've even tuned in some of the coffees and footballs, like when there's been big news and stuff when I'm not busy in the morning. But yeah, we appreciate you a ton for taking some time and hanging out, bud.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me, TJ.
Yes, sir. Texas fans or fans of any college football team that happens to tune into this, make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you are also following us on social media and wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, whatever. We've got more content with Gerry coming soon, so you don't want to miss that. Hit the subscribe button on your way out. We'll talk to you soon.